Coming over Niles, and Portage Central is 3-2 overall in the season. Their non-conference win over Lansing Everett. And John, right now on the field, the Mustangs introducing, I believe, their starting offense.
Yes, it is tonight, Joe, and I think we're going to look for an explosive offense tonight. The weather is just perfect for that. It's one of those cool, crisp evenings here at McCamley Field, and I know that the offense is looking forward to having a nice weather-type evening, and they're all fired up to do the best that they can, and I'm sure they will.
Big change from last week when they played in another rainstorm-type conditions against St. Joe, and unfortunately, for the fourth straight year, they came out on the losing end of the scoreboard.
Boy, and it always seems to happen in like it did last weekend in the last 4 minutes. Before, of course, it's ended, or that problem has happened in the last 4 or 5 seconds. But tonight is just a perfect night for football, and I'm sure that they're going to gear up and crank up that offense and see what they can do.
Well, Mustangs having a good year defensively. They've only given up, as I turn over and look at my pregame stats, they've only given up 34 points on the year, but they've only scored 72.
Boy, that's the difference, because if you can hold 5 teams to 34 points, you should be able to win an awful lot of ball games. But the offense just has not got on track, and I think a lot of it has to do with the weather.
As you look at your picture now, the referees and officials are indicating that Portage Central has indeed won the toss. They will receive and defend the south goal, and Benton Harbor will be kicking off, and they will defend the north goal. And there are tonight's officials: Jim Masowitz, Frank Smith, Don Milanowski, and Tim Masowitz, and they are all from the Grand Rapids area.
Joe, I think one thing that we're going to look for from Benton Harbor, they're going to be on the defense at the start, is they run a couple of different defenses depending on what Portage Central will do with their offense. If Portage Central comes out with that double tight end and the wide out, that they're going to run what we call a 6-2. In other words, they'll head up people on both those ends, try to stop those ends from coming out, try to stop anything running off the corner, which means that Portage Central will run more of that inside veer that they do.
We'll have to see what Benton Harbor defense gives the Mustang offense. Portage Central has all the tools. They're big enough to go inside and quick enough to go around the corner if they decide to. And back deep for the Mustangs, Steve Pewitt, Matt Kopp, and on the far side of the field, I'll get our spotter, Bill Frakes, to peek through the glasses and tell me who the receiver is on the far side. Chris Norman, they tell me. And we're just about to get underway. Benton Harbor kicking off to the Mustangs on a cool, crisp Friday evening, a perfect night for football. And the kick is along the ground, and Portage Central elects to let it bounce, and Marty Williams will pick it up just shy of his 30 and get up to the 34 before he's driven out of bounds.
It's a wise job. You looked at the other receiver, or the other person that could have picked up that ball, Joe, and they let it go to Marty, being the back, being the sure-handed person. And then, of course, he runs towards the sideline trying to get an opening, but basically just making sure that he's got a handle on the ball, getting it out of bounds, stop the clock, and they'll go ahead and start now from here.
Good field position, 1st and 10 on the 33, 34-yard line. Portage Central with a single tight end and double wideout formation. We'll get through the starting lineups as quick as we can. And the first play of the game is Marty Williams off tackle, the handoff from Dan Knight, and he's up across the 35 to the 36.
Got a couple of horses right now in the backfield for Portage Central, with both Marty Williams, who play in the fullback tonight, and Kurt Johnson, who will play the fullback if Marty's not in there, but right now he's playing the halfback situation, so we've got an awful lot of power in there.
Well, maybe Coach Knight wants to see what he can do about softening up that Benton Harbor defense. Across the front, the Tigers go with Marcus Watson, Michael Frazier, Larry Doyle, Larry Featherstone, and Richard Brewer, who is one of the co-captains for the Tigers. A little bit of movement there on the defensive front, but everyth's okay, and the ball goes inside again, and this time it's Johnson still on his feet and all the way to the 50 before he's tackled by Willie Hall and Larry Allen.
It's kind of a situation there, Joe. If you on the screen, you can see that Benton Harbor was really humped up in there close. All of their people, they were in that 52, but it almost looked like a 56. They had everybody behind the down 5 linemen right behind the line of scrimmage, and when Kurt was able to pop through there, it was almost a breaker.
Just about. Dan Knight has it 1st and 10 on the 50-yard line. Just underway here in the ball game, and Marty Williams this time will try his luck. He pounds inside behind his right guard Mike Ball and his big tackle Doug Roberts, and he'll pick up 4. It'll be 2nd down and 6.
Boy, again, you can see this. Portage Central is just going to go right at Benton Harbor. They're going to see what they can do, make Benton Harbor make some adjustments if they have, or if they can, in order to stop just the straight veer type of an offense.
Mustangs trying to get on the board first here tonight. They received the opening kickoff, and they've taken it down inside the Benton Harbor 48. And again, they'll go inside off tackle, and Marty Williams gets the call, and he's close to another first down.
They're getting that 3 to 5 yards on each offensive thrust, Joe, and it shows that the offensive line is being able to move out Benton Harbor a little bit here and giving the running backs enough room to get into that secondary early.
And that offensive line of Dave Sperry, Mike Canellis, Nick Roush, Mike Ball, Doug Roberts, and the tight ends are interchangeable, Chris Norman and Polderman and Buller, and all of them in there, so we'll do our best to keep track of who's in and who's not. And again, they'll go inside. Dan Knight running the option and electing to hand it off, and Marty Williams busts down across the 40.
Making sure they get the first down, Joe. Run that little bit of the outside veer where they give it to Marty Williams, or Danny could pull it out and make the option. I think on that play it looked like it was almost a set situation. Let's get that first down, get those 2 yards, and then we'll set up again and see what we can do to move them again.
We talked at the beginning of the year, John, that sophomore Dan Knight needed to gain some experience in running the option, and I think that he's gotten better with every ball game.
Boy, he sure has. He's able to read those, read that end, read that tackle, depending on whether it's an inside or an outside veer, and make the right call most of the time.
You didn't have to do much reading on the last play as you sent Marty Williams off left tackle for a couple. 2nd down and 6 now. Ball resting on about the 35-yard line of Benton Harbor.
Right, Joe. That wasn't actually the veer in that situation. He just handed right off to Marty and said, "Let's go off tackle and see what we can get." And of course, they got a good gain again on the first down.
2nd down and 6 for the Mustangs, just underway here in the first quarter. And they'll keep it on the ground and give it to Johnson, who fights forward, but he's driven back as Michael Frazier, the junior from Benton Harbor, 5'8", 260, wrapped him up.
Whoa, that's a big guy to be able to throw you down, especially at 5'8" and 260. He covers a lot of ground, Joe, width-wise.
Sure does, and maybe for the first time in a couple ball games, John, Benton Harbor has some size to go with Portage Central.
Yes, they do. They've always had the speed, it seemed like, when we've played Benton Harbor over the years. Now that they're in the Big 8 Conference, and this year they've got a little bit of the bulk, too, a little bit of the size to go with that.
Big 3rd down play, 3rd and 3, the ball close to the 30-yard line. Portage Central on the move. They'll send Buller in motion across the bottom of your picture and come back to the right end. Marty Williams, a big hole across the 30 and down close to the 25.
Coach Knight should be able to see what's going on. What we saw on the screen there again, Benton Harbor seems in a situation like that where it's 3rd and about 3 or 4, or maybe even when it's shorter or longer, they bring all of their defensive people behind the front line defensive people right up. They're within 4 yards of the line of scrimmage. And if you can pop through there, of course you're going to have it home free all the way to the end zone. But also, if you can just get like Marty did on that one, just through the first line of defense, you're going to get that first down.
Marty almost scoring the touchdown, but Kevin Pollins coming up to make that saving tackle. It'll be 1st and 10, Portage Central. They'll send Dargits in motion to the top of your picture, and Dan Knight will go that way again. But this time, Bates, the sophomore, will come up and make the tackle and throw the Mustangs for a loss.
This is a situation where Danny may have been a little bit wiser to pull the ball out and run it down on the option play. The block wasn't quite there, and of course they were stopped for no gain on that situation.
Kurt Johnson, the ball carrier on that last play, and Roosevelt Bates. We'll see him on offense. He's a sophomore, 5'9", 190 pounds.
Portage Central is controlling the line of scrimmage for the most part. They've been moving the ball since they got it right down here. This is a big play for them now that it's 2nd and 10 rather than 2nd and 6 or something.
We'll see what they do. They'll stay on the ground again. This time Knight will keep it and go outside across the 20. He's going to score. Portage Central leads this ball game 6-0.
Well, you talk about setting up a play, Joe. They run that same play the other way before, and of course it gets shut down when he gives it to Kurt. This time Danny pulls it right out, and again with all those people bunched up so close, he was able to just take it right around the corner and all the way to the end zone.
Just what you were talking about, John, that sooner or later they were going to come down hard on the fullback, and Dan Knight was going to pull it and go right around the end.
Boy, it really looked good. That's the way you run a veer. That's the kind of thing that you put clinics about, I guess. And
they'll attempt the extra point. The kick is up. And the kick is good, and the Mustangs take a quick 7-0 lead with 6:51 left to play in the first quarter. So similar to what we saw against Lloyd Oryx 2 weeks ago, John, Mustangs taking the opening kickoff and driving right down the field for the score.
Boy, that's the way to put the other team, the opposing team, on their heels right away. Especially with a team like Benton Harbor that always has the speed, it's always nice to get on that board first, make them play the catch-up, because then some people are, you're going to try to do something maybe a little bit different than you would if you had the ball first or if it was still 0-0, and that's when mistakes sometimes can happen.
Benton Harbor, a relatively young football team that has fallen on hard times. It wasn't too many years ago that they were Big 8 conference champions, but starting a lot of young people and not doing too well in the overall win and loss column. But in talking with their coach earlier today, Dan Lauer, he said that they've been in every ball game so far.
Well, they sure have, Joe. And any time that you have an explosive backfield like they do, a lot of speed like they do, they can stay in a lot of ball games unless you score an awful lot of points early on them.
Just what the Mustangs want to do, put them in a hole early. And Matt Kopp and Bob Pop, the two men in your picture, and Pop puts his foot into it. Portage Central may get this one. They touched it, I think, just before it went 10 yards, but the Tigers fell on it anyway.
Well, they did, Joe. I think it was just a little bit of an antsy lineman for Portage Central because it looked like that ball may go that 10 yards, and there wasn't a Tiger around it if it would have gone that 10 yards. And he just kind of gave it just a little bit of a push, as we saw on the screen. And so, of course, Benton Harbor will take over the ball here, or they'll be able to make a choice on where it is.
Now they're talking to our officiating crew right now. That's 81, Rich Brewer, 6'1", senior, 180 pounds. And I think they're going to give him 5 yards on that one. It'll be 1st and 10, Benton Harbor.
What happens, Joe, in that situation is it's where the Portage Central athlete touched the ball. They touched it before it went to 10 yards, and so Benton Harbor had the choice of taking it right there.
So they start the ball game with their first possession, an excellent field position just inside Mustang territory. That's Corey Whitehead handing the ball off inside to Bates, a tough runner, and Doug Roberts wraps him up for maybe a yard.
Real good. That's the kind of swarming defense, of course, Portage Central is known for, and they did just an excellent job right there at that.
Mustangs, talking about defense, John, last week held St. Joe's high-powered attack to only 36 yards rushing.
Boy, they did a great job down there in the mud and the rain and the wind and all the other good things that were going on down there.
2nd down and call it 9 now for Benton Harbor. Whitehead is a sophomore, and this time they bring Harden into quarterback, and he completes his first pass to Marshall, dancing around down close to the 40 before he stopped. Go ahead, John.
Good little move, Joe. It's just they put everybody, it makes it look like the throw, if they are going to throw, is going to go to the wide side of the field, and then you just hook the wide receiver over here, or the wide out, what we call a split end, and he was just in that little no-man's zone. The linebacker couldn't quite get out there in time, and of course it was a good gain.
3rd and 2 now for Benton Harbor, and they're doing something a little bit unusual. They're shuttling their plays in with the quarterbacks. This time it's Whitehead under center. And he'll drop back and hand it off inside to Chris Carr, and he is stopped for no gain.
Big play there. I believe it was Eric Munson, number 56, that was in on the first play. Yes, it was. He got in there, got in the backfield, mixed it all up, and of course there's no place to go from there.
Also Chris Norman, the linebacker, in on that stop. It'll be 4th down now and a long 3. Benton Harbor will go for it, and again, Harden will come in at quarterback. He is a junior, 6'1", 170 pounds. And Whitehead, the sophomore, at 5'7", 160. 4th and 3. Benton Harbor trails at 7-0. And they'll send their best receiver, Lewis Williams, in motion to the right. And there's the play that we talked about as the Mustangs come up with a big defensive effort. Chris Norman, number 80, sliding through to make the tackle.
What a great shot by Chris Norman. He came right through there, read it just perfectly, got over there. It looked like a run all the way, Joe. They didn't put the wide out in motion, but the quarterback, boy, he had that the ball close to himself, and he had all the blockers out in front. I think he just wanted to run off that corner, and Chris snuck in behind the blockers and just made a heck of a hit.
Sure did. Maybe Benton Harbor hoping Portage Central would read the pass formation and drop back a little bit, but the Mustangs certainly weren't fooled, and they'll take over on their own 44, 1st and 10. Randy Buller, the man split down to the bottom of your picture, and the ball goes inside to Williams, who's having himself quite a night. He bounces down across the 45, close to the 50 before he stopped. Allen in on the tackle for Benton Harbor.
Marty's moving very, very well.